The Galactic Council, a large group of alien species who govern the galaxy, often met to discuss important matters. They had been observing humanity for centuries. From the time humans first stepped onto the stage of space travel, the Council had watched them with interest. The humans were a species of warriors, explorers and dreamers, but to the Council, they were still far from the level of their own advanced societies. The Council's representatives came from many different worlds. They were older, wiser, and more powerful than humanity. They had technologies humans couldn't even imagine. For a long time, Earth was seen as a species that needed guidance, not a threat or even an ally. To them, humanity was still in its early stages of development. They were raw and unpolished, full of potential, but not yet capable of being a real player in the galaxy. John Carter, a human diplomat, had just arrived at the Council's headquarters, a massive station that orbited the center of the galaxy. The station was a marvel of alien technology, with sleek corridors and gravity-shifting rooms. John had been to many council meetings before, but this one felt different. This time, the council would be deciding whether or not humanity would be granted more freedom to expand and develop, or if they would remain under the council's watchful eye, held back from their true potential. John wasn't the only human on the station. Grace Turner, a brilliant scientist, had been working on an important project that could change the way humans interacted with the galaxy. She was part of a secret team that had been studying ancient alien artifacts found beneath Earth's surface. The Council didn't know about this project, and Grace intended to keep it that way. She knew that humanity had much more to offer than the Council realized. But revealing that too soon could have dangerous consequences, Grace had always believed that humanity could stand on its own. They didn't need the Council's approval or protection. She believed in their strength, their ingenuity, and their ability to grow. But the more she studied the alien technology hidden under the Earth, the more she realized that humans were sitting on a treasure trove of power that they had no idea how to control. The knowledge of these ancient technologies had been lost for centuries, and Grace had just begun to uncover its secrets. She wasn't sure whether she should tell John or not. If she revealed what she had learned, it could change everything. The Council would have to take humanity seriously, but at what cost? The more Grace thought about it, the more she realized that the Council might not be ready for the truth. Meanwhile, John was meeting with Adam Hayes, a young and ambitious council member, who was suspicious of humanity's rapid progress. Adam had been on the Council for only a few years, but he had already made a name for himself by asking tough questions. He was the type of person who didn't just accept things at face value. He believed that humanity's quick rise from primitive to advanced technology wasn't just a stroke of luck. It had to be something more. Adam had been tracking Earth's developments for some time now. He had noticed strange patterns in their technological growth, and he began to suspect that humanity was hiding something. His suspicions grew stronger with every report he received. The humans were too clever, too quick, and too adaptable to be just another species in the galaxy. There was something different about them. He had even heard rumors of mysterious projects being conducted on Earth, but he didn't have solid proof. John wasn't aware of Adam's suspicions. He was just trying to do his job and represent Earth's interests at the Council. But Adam's questions were about to change everything. During the Council meeting, Adam stood up and addressed the assembly. He was calm, but there was an edge to his voice. He had spent months researching the humans, and now he was ready to share what he had found. Fellow council members, Adam began, I've been looking into Earth's technological developments. Something doesn't add up. They've made leaps in technology that shouldn't be possible for a species as young as theirs. I think they're hiding something from us. Something big. The room went quiet. The other council members looked at Adam, then at each other. They had always considered humanity to be a species that was still in its early stages, species that couldn't possibly be hiding anything of importance. But Adam's words planted a seed of doubt in their minds. John felt a wave of nervousness. He had heard rumors about the council's concerns, but he hadn't thought they were true. Now, as Adam's words hung in the air, he began to wonder if humanity's secrets were about to be exposed. The tension in the room was thick. John stood up to address the council. He wasn't sure what Adam was talking about, but he knew that humanity couldn't afford to lose the Council's trust. He took a deep breath and spoke, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "Council members, I assure you that humanity has nothing to hide," John said. "We have made progress, yes, but we are still learning. We are still growing. We don't have the advanced technology you believe we do. We are not hiding anything from you." But even as he spoke, John felt a twinge of doubt. He knew that Grace was working on something that could change the course of human history. He just didn't know if it was ready to be revealed. And he didn't know if the Council would ever be ready for it. The meeting ended in uncertainty. The Council members were left to discuss Adam's claims privately, and John was left to wonder what would happen next. Would the Council demand answers? Would they push for a full investigation into humanity's secrets? Or would they continue to underestimate humans, believing them to be a harmless species that could be controlled? As the meeting concluded, Grace sat alone in her lab on Earth, staring at the ancient artifact in front of her. She had been studying it for months, and she knew that it held the key to humanity's future. She wasn't sure what to do with it. She wasn't sure if humanity was ready for what she had uncovered. And then it hit her. Maybe it wasn't the Council that needed to be ready. Maybe it was humanity itself. Grace Turner's mind raced as she sat in front of the ancient artifact. She had always believed that humanity had great potential, but this discovery changed everything. The technology she had uncovered was unlike anything humans had ever seen. It was old, far older than anything Earth had ever known, and yet it still held power. She couldn't understand how something so advanced had ended up buried beneath Earth's surface. She had spent weeks studying the artifact, trying to figure out how it worked. There were no clear instructions, no manuals, no guides, just pieces of technology that seemed to defy logic. But Grace was a brilliant scientist, and she had managed to unlock some of its secrets. She had discovered that the artifact was a kind of key, a key that could unlock far more than just hidden technology. It could open the door to a new understanding of the universe, and Grace knew that humanity wasn't ready for that kind of knowledge. She glanced at the device again, its smooth surface reflecting the dim lights of her lab. She knew she had to make a decision. Should she tell John? Should she let him know what she had found? She had been working in secret for so long, but now she wasn't sure what the right thing to do was. Meanwhile, back at the Council station, Adam Hayes couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about humanity. He had been investigating Earth's progress for months, and every time he looked deeper, he found more questions than answers. The more he dug, the more he realized that humanity's rise to power wasn't just a natural process, it was something more. But what? Adam had always prided himself on being a careful observer, someone who asked the hard questions. He had risen through the ranks of the Council by challenging conventional wisdom, and this was no different. But this time, his curiosity was leading him down a dangerous path. He couldn't let go of the feeling that humanity was hiding something. And he was determined to find out what it was. He stood in front of a holographic display in his office. Looking at the latest reports on Earth's technological progress, they had made significant advancements in fields like space travel, energy generation, and artificial intelligence, but none of it added up. The speed at which humanity had developed these technologies was unnatural. It was as if they were holding something back, and Adam was convinced that the Council needed to know. He began compiling evidence, gathering data from various sources. He spoke to other Council members, trying to get their opinions, but they all seemed to dismiss his concerns. They didn't want to believe that humanity was anything other than a developing species. They didn't want to see what was right in front of them. But Adam wasn't willing to let it go. He had to know the truth, and he was determined to find it, no matter what it took. Back on Earth, Grace was still struggling with her decision. She knew that revealing the artifact to the Council could change everything. It could make humanity a powerful force in the galaxy, but it could also make them a target. The Council might see the discovery as a threat, and humanity might not be ready for the responsibility that came with such power. She thought about John. He had always been a steady presence, someone who believed in humanity's potential, but also understood the risks. He was the perfect person to help her navigate the situation. But could she trust him with such a dangerous secret? Grace's thoughts were interrupted by a sudden ping on her computer. It was a message from John. He had heard the rumors about Adam's suspicions, and he wanted to meet with her. Grace felt a sense of relief. Maybe John would have some answers. Maybe he could help her figure out what to do next. They arranged to meet at a secure location, far from the prying eyes of the council. Grace arrived early, her mind still racing. She had to tell him about the artifact, but she didn't know how. She didn't know if he would understand, or if he would think she was being too cautious. When John arrived, he could see the worry on her face. He had known Grace for years, and he could tell when something was bothering her. He sat down across from her and waited for her to speak. "What's going on, Grace?" John asked, his voice calm but serious. "You've been acting strange lately." Grace hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I've discovered something," she said quietly. "Something important, something that could change everything." John's curiosity piqued. He leaned forward. "What is it?" Grace took a deep breath. "It's an artifact," she said. "An ancient piece of technology buried under Earth's surface. I've been studying it for weeks, and I've uncovered some of its secrets, but there's more. It's a key to something bigger. Something humanity isn't ready for." John's mind raced as he processed her words. He had always known that humanity had untapped potential, but this was something entirely different. He could sense the gravity of the situation. Whatever Grace had found, it could change everything. "You're telling me this artifact is something more than just a piece of tech?" John asked, his voice low. "What are we talking about here?" Grace nodded. "It's not just technology. It's a key to unlocking something, a greater understanding of the universe. But humanity isn't ready for that kind of power. If the council finds out about this, we could be in serious trouble." John looked at her, his expression serious. "What do you want me to do? Can't keep this a secret forever." "I know," Grace replied, "but we have to be careful. The council already suspects something is going on with humanity. If they find out about this artifact, they could try to control it. Or worse, they could see humanity as a threat and act accordingly." John ran a hand through his hair. "So what do we do?" Grace looked down at the artifact on the table. "I don't know. But I think we need to decide if we're ready to reveal humanity's true potential. The council won't be happy about it, but we can't keep holding back. We have to choose if we're going to stand on our own or stay hidden forever." John nodded slowly. He understood the weight of her words. Humanity's future was at a crossroads. They could either remain a minor player in the galaxy under the watchful eye of the council, or they could take the risk of revealing their true power and face the consequences. But one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same. As they sat there in silence, the future of humanity hung in the balance. The next few days were tense. John and Grace both knew that the situation was growing more dangerous. The artifact Grace had found was more powerful than either of them could fully understand. They also knew that the council's suspicions about humanity were getting stronger. Adam Hayes, the young but ambitious council member, had been watching them closely. He had become even more convinced that humans were hiding something, and his questions were becoming harder to avoid. Grace couldn't shake the feeling that Adam was getting closer to discovering the truth. Every time she saw him at the council meetings, she felt a chill run down her spine. Adam had always been smart, but now he seemed to be more focused than ever on uncovering the secrets humanity was hiding. His constant questions about Earth's sudden technological leaps had made it clear that he wasn't willing to just accept the answers John had been giving. At the same time, John found himself torn between his loyalty to humanity and his duty to the council. He had always believed that humanity could stand on its own, that they didn't need the council's control. But now, with the discovery of the artifact, things were different. Grace's warning echoed in his mind. Revealing humanity's true potential could make them a target. The council, even though it was made up of many different species, was powerful. If they saw humanity as a threat, they wouldn't hesitate to take action. It was late one evening when John received a message from Adam. The message was short, but it was enough to make his heart race. Adam wanted to meet him in private. John knew that this could be trouble. Adam had been pressing harder for answers about humanity's secret projects. He didn't trust that John had been telling the full truth. and John feared that the time to keep secrets was quickly running out. The meeting was set for a small room in the council station, far from the main meeting halls. It was a quiet, isolated place where they could talk without anyone else listening in. John arrived first, his thoughts racing. He had a feeling that Adam already knew something, and he wasn't sure how much longer he could keep pretending that everything was normal. When Adam arrived, he didn't waste any time. He sat down across from John, his expression serious. There was no small talk, no pleasantries. Adam looked directly at John and spoke in a low voice. "I know you're hiding something," Adam said. "I've been watching you. I've been watching humanity. You're not telling me the whole truth, John." John's heart skipped a beat. He had hoped that Adam would be patient, that he would wait for the right moment to make his move. But it was clear that Adam wasn't going to wait any longer. "I don't know what you're talking about," John replied, trying to keep his voice steady. Adam's gaze didn't waver. "I've been looking into the records. The technology coming out of Earth doesn't add up." "You've been hiding it, haven't you? The technology you're using, it's far more advanced than anything humans should be capable of." John's mind raced. How much did Adam know? How close was he to uncovering the truth? "I don't know what you think you've found," John said, trying to deflect. "But Earth is still developing. We're not hiding anything. We're just growing faster than you expected." Adam leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "You can keep lying to me, but I know there's more. I know you're hiding something important. I'm not going to let it go. You have two choices. Tell me the truth, or I'll go to the council. They'll find out anyway." John sat back, his mind working quickly. He couldn't let Adam go to the council with this information. If Adam went public with his suspicions, humanity could be in serious trouble. He had to find a way to keep the secret hidden, at least for a little longer. "But how?" "I can't tell you everything," John said after a moment. "There are things about humanity's progress that you wouldn't understand. But I'll tell you this. We're not ready to reveal everything just yet. If you push this, it could mean the end of humanity's future." Adam looked at him for a long time, weighing his words. Finally, he spoke. "I don't know if I can just ignore this. John, you're asking me to keep quiet about something that's bigger than both of us. If humanity is holding back, if they're hiding technology they don't want us to see, that's a problem for all of us." John's heart sank. He knew Adam was right, but he also knew that revealing the truth too soon could lead to disaster. Humanity wasn't ready for the full weight of what they had discovered. The council certainly wasn't ready to trust them with such power. "I'm not asking you to ignore it," John said quietly. "I'm asking you to give us time. Just a little more time, and we'll show you everything."
Adam
studied him for a long time. Finally, he stood up. "I'll give you that time," he said. "But if you're not honest with me, John, I will go to the council. You can't hide the truth forever." John nodded, feeling the weight of Adam's words. He had just bought them some time, but it wasn't much. He knew that Adam was a man of his word, and if he suspected that humanity was hiding something, he would keep digging. The clock was ticking. As Adam left, John sat in the quiet room, his thoughts swirling. He had just made a dangerous promise. If the truth came out before humanity was ready, everything could fall apart. The council might see humanity as a threat, and they could take drastic measures. But if they waited too long, they might lose their chance to control the information themselves. Back on Earth, Grace was feeling the pressure as well. She had been working non-stop in her lab trying to make sense of the artifact and its potential. She had discovered more about the technology it contained, but she still didn't understand all of it. What if they were making a mistake? What if revealing this power was a mistake? She thought about John and the decision they had made together. She knew he was doing everything he could to protect humanity, but the weight of their secret was heavy. The artifact was a key, but it was also a responsibility. If humanity was to take its place in the galaxy, they would have to be ready for what was coming. And right now, it seemed like no one was truly ready for what lay ahead. Days passed, and tension continued to build. John knew they were running out of time. Adam Hayes was no longer just suspicious. He was determined to uncover the truth. Every time John saw him, he could feel the pressure mounting. Adam had made it clear that he wouldn't stop until he got the answers he wanted, and John couldn't afford to let him dig any deeper. Meanwhile, Grace was still in her lab, working tirelessly on the artifact. It was consuming all her time, and she knew she was getting closer to understanding its full potential. But the more she studied it, the more she realized how dangerous it could be. If the Council ever got their hands on this technology, humanity could lose control. It wasn't just about power, it was about survival. The artifact could change everything. It's only if they were ready for it. The decisions they were facing were becoming harder to ignore. John and Grace had been talking about their next steps for hours. But neither of them could come up with a solution that felt right. Every path they considered seemed to lead to danger, and there was no turning back once they made their choice. One evening, John received a message from Grace. She wanted to meet with him in person. The urgency in her message was clear, and John immediately knew something had changed. He didn't waste any time and set off to meet her. They met at a quiet, secluded spot on Earth, far away from the prying eyes of the Council. Grace was already there when he arrived. She looked tired but determined, her eyes full of concern. "You're looking serious?" John said, trying to lighten the mood. "What's going on?" Grace didn't smile. "John, I've been studying the artifact again. I've found something. Something big." John's heart raced. "What is it?" Grace took a deep breath before answering. "The artifact is more than just technology. It's not just a key to knowledge. It's a weapon. A weapon so powerful that if it falls into the wrong hands, it could destroy everything. The Council cannot know about this." John felt a chill run down his spine. He had always known that the artifact was important, but he hadn't fully understood its potential. Now, it seemed like they were facing a far greater threat than they had ever imagined. If the Council learned of the artifact, humanity could be in grave danger. "You're telling me this thing is a weapon?" John asked, his voice low. Grace nodded. "Yes, and it's more than just a weapon. It's a tool for control. Whoever controls it could dominate the entire galaxy." John's mind raced. He had been trying to keep the truth hidden, but now he realized that they couldn't keep it secret forever. The Council would eventually find out, and if they discovered the true power of the artifact, humanity would lose its chance to control their own fate. "We have to destroy it," Grace said firmly. John shook his head. "We can't destroy it. That would be like throwing away humanity's future." "I know," Grace replied, "but we can't let the Council have it. If they get their hands on it, they'll control us. They'll control everything. We need to find a way to hide it, to keep it safe." John thought for a moment. "Maybe we don't have to hide it forever. Maybe we just need to buy some time. We need to find a way to keep the Council distracted, to make them think we're still not ready for something like this." Grace agreed, but the thought of delaying the truth felt dangerous. How long could they keep the artifact hidden? How long could they keep the Council from discovering it? The clock was ticking. The pressure was building with each passing day. They sat in silence for a while, each lost in their own thoughts. The weight of the situation was heavy on both of them. They had a powerful tool at their disposal, but they also had no idea how to control it. The more they learned, the more they realized that humanity was on the edge of something much bigger than they had ever imagined. But they had to be careful. One wrong move, and everything could fall apart. "I think we should talk to Adam," John said suddenly, breaking the silence. Grace looked at him, surprised. "Talk to Adam? You know he's been pushing us for answers. If we tell him what we found, he'll go straight to the Council." "I don't think we have much of a choice," John replied. "He's going to find out eventually. If we don't tell him now, he'll just keep digging. And if he finds out on his own, he won't trust us." Grace hesitated, but she knew John was right. Adam was smart, and he wouldn't stop until he uncovered the truth. "Maybe it was time to stop hiding. I don't like it," Grace said, her voice heavy with doubt. "But maybe you're right. If we don't give him something, he'll just keep coming." The decision was made. They would meet with Adam, but they would have to be careful. They couldn't tell him everything, not yet. But they could give him enough to keep him from going to the Council with what he suspected. They had to buy time. The next day, John arranged a meeting with Adam. It was held in a small, private room on the Council station, far from the main halls. Adam was already there when John and Grace arrived. He looked impatient, his eyes scanning them as if waiting for them to finally give him the answers he had been seeking. I hope you have something useful to tell me, Adam said without preamble. I'm tired of waiting. John looked at Grace before speaking. We've been hiding something, Adam, but it's not what you think. The artifact we've been studying, it's not just technology. It's something far more powerful, and we're still learning how to control it. Adam's eyes narrowed. What do you mean by powerful? What are you not telling me? We don't fully understand it, Grace said, but we know it's dangerous. If it falls into the wrong hands, it could change everything. That's why we've kept it hidden. We need time to figure out how to use it safely. Tom sat back, his expression unreadable. So you're telling me that humanity has been sitting on something this powerful for who knows how long? And you're just now telling me? We didn't know what we had until recently, John replied. And now that we do, we need to protect it. We can't let the council find out about it, not yet. Adam was silent for a long time, considering their words. Finally, he spoke. I won't go to the council with this information, for now, he said. But you're running out of time. If you're hiding something this important, it's only a matter of time before the rest of the council finds out. John nodded, grateful, but still worried. They had bought themselves a little more time, but how much longer could they keep the secret hidden? As they left the meeting, the weight of the decision pressed down on them. The future was uncertain, and the path ahead was full of danger. But one thing was clear. The game had changed, and humanity was no longer just an observer in the galaxy. They were players in a much bigger game, and the stakes were higher than they had ever imagined. The days after their meeting with Adam felt like they were walking on a tightrope. John and Grace both knew that they were dangerously close to the edge. Adam had agreed to keep their secret for now, but it wasn't going to last forever. The council would find out sooner or later, and when they did, the consequences could be disastrous. Grace spent most of her time in the lab working on the artifact. She had uncovered more about its functions, but the deeper she went, the more uncertain she became. Every time she thought she understood it, the artifact revealed something new, something even more powerful, something that could change the balance of the galaxy. And yet, there was a part of her that was afraid to continue. What if they weren't ready for this kind of power? What if the artifact was a danger, not just to the council, but to humanity itself? John, meanwhile, found himself torn between his duty to the council and his loyalty to humanity. He had always believed that humanity could stand on its own, without the council's interference. But now, with the artifact's power revealed, he knew that they couldn't afford to make a mistake. If the council found out about it, they would demand control over it, and humanity would lose any chance at independence. One evening, as John sat in his quarters, the message he had been dreading finally came through. It was from Adam. The message was simple, but its meaning was clear. The council wanted a meeting, and Adam had made it clear that this was their last chance to tell the full truth before the council took matters into their own hands. John didn't hesitate. He knew what he had to do. He immediately contacted Grace, asking her to meet him. They had no choice now. They couldn't hide anymore. It was time to reveal the truth, and they had to be ready for whatever would happen next. When Grace arrived, she looked just as worried as he felt. They exchanged a glance, and without speaking, they both knew that there was no turning back. Adam's not going to wait much longer, John said quietly. We can't keep this hidden anymore. Grace nodded. I know, we've run out of time. But I'm not sure the council will understand. They might see us as a threat. John sighed, rubbing his temples. They'll see us as a threat no matter what. It's up to us to decide if we're ready to face what comes next. After a few moments of silence, Grace spoke again. We can't let them control us. If we reveal the artifact, we need to be in control of how it's used. We can't just hand it over to them. John agreed. We'll have to convince the council that humanity can handle this power. We can't let them take it from us. With that, they both stood up ready to face the council. The time had come. The meeting was set for the following day in the council's main chamber. John and Grace arrived early, their hearts pounding. Adam was already there, along with several other council members. Their faces were serious, but there was an air of anticipation in the room. They knew this meeting was important, but they didn't know just how much it would change everything. Adam stood up as soon as they entered the room. "You're here," he said, his voice steady. "We've been waiting for you." John nodded, taking a deep breath. He turned to face the council and began to speak. "We have something to reveal," John said. "Something that humanity has been hiding, something that we now understand the full weight of. This artifact," he motioned to Grace, who stood beside him, "is more than just technology. It's a key, a tool, and a weapon. A weapon so powerful that if it falls into the wrong hands, it could destroy everything."
Ow.
The room went silent. The council members exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. Adam looked at John, his eyes narrowing. "You've been hiding this from us?" Adam asked, his voice rising slightly. Why not tell us earlier?" John met Adam's gaze. "We didn't fully understand its power until recently. We needed time to study it. And now we know that revealing it too soon could lead to disaster. We couldn't risk it. But now you've decided to tell us?" Adam pressed. "Why? What's changed?" Grace stepped forward. "Because we can't control it alone anymore. Humanity has the power to control it, but we can't keep it hidden forever. We need to decide what to do with it." The council members were still quiet, their eyes fixed on the artifact, trying to comprehend its significance. Finally, one of the older members, a species with long silvery tendrils and deep-set eyes, spoke. "You're asking us to trust you with this power?" the member asked, his voice slow and deliberate. "Humanity has made great progress, but you've still only just begun to understand the full scope of what you have. What makes you think you can handle this?" John's heart pounded in his chest, but he stood tall. "We don't have all the answers," he said, "but we know that humanity has the potential to rise above this challenge. We're not asking for control. We're asking for the opportunity to prove ourselves. If the council steps in, we risk losing everything." The room fell into another uneasy silence. The weight of John's words hung in the air, and it was clear that the council was divided. Some seemed to understand his point, but others weren't so sure. "We're not ready for this," one of the members finally said. "We can't let humanity take on this responsibility. They're still too young." "Perhaps," Grace replied, her voice steady. "But sometimes it's the young who rise to the challenge when others hesitate. Humanity has proven time and again that they can adapt, that they can learn and grow. This is our time." Adam stood up, his face still hard to read. "And what if you're wrong? What if you're not ready?" John looked at him, the weight of the moment heavy in his chest. "Then we'll face the consequences. But we'll face them as humanity, not as pawns of the council. We can't be controlled. Not anymore." The silence that followed was thick, and for a moment, no one spoke. The council members seemed to be considering the gravity of John and Grace's words, weighing the risk against the potential rewards. Finally, the older member with the silvery tendrils spoke again. "Perhaps it's time to give humanity a chance. But understand this: if you fail, if you misuse this power, there will be no second chances." John nodded. "We understand, and we won't fail." Grace stepped forward, her voice soft but resolute. "We're asking for your trust. But if you can't give it, then we'll find another way. Humanity will find its own path." The council members looked at each other once more. Finally, Adam spoke. "I don't agree with everything you've said," he said slowly, "but I believe humanity deserves a chance. I'll support you, for now. But the council will be watching. If you misuse this power, there will be consequences." John and Grace exchanged a look, a silent agreement passing between them. They had done it. They had convinced the council to give humanity a chance, but they knew this was just the beginning. The artifact was more powerful than they could fully understand, and the responsibility that came with it was overwhelming. The future of humanity was in their hands, and they could only hope they were ready for what lay ahead.